Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this Monday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Tonight's main topic, as I put it in the title of the video, is how much is too much, or on the other side of the coin, how little is too little. And you can use it with a variation of sports. And I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. But first, before we get there, yesterday in the world of NASCAR Cup Series racing, we had the Aero 400 from Chicagoland. Chase Briscoe came home to win, his first win of the season, sixth career. Christopher Bell second, followed by Denny Hamlin. Gibbs Racing finished 1, 2, 3. William Byron, in both of the stages, comes home fourth, followed by teammate Alex Bowman. And then 6 through 10 was Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney, Ty Gibbs, Corey Heim, and Riley Herbst. This week we'll have the Quaker State 400 available at Walmart from Echo Park Speedway, which is Atlanta Motor Speedway. The name changed a couple of years ago. That'll be Sunday at 7 o'clock. And that might be the weirdest name for a race I've ever seen. I know they all have, sponsors in the name. I totally understand that. But you're calling it the Quaker State 400 available at Walmart, like Quaker State is only available there when it's also available other places as well. So kind of makes no sense, but nonetheless, that is the name. Denny Hamlin now leads the regular season points with 7 races to go in the regular season, when it looked like Tyler Reddick was going to run away with the regular season championship. He has lost that to Denny Hamlin. Hey there, Gabriella. I'm glad to have you here on this Monday evening. Gabriella, I think I recognize your name, so I don't think you're new. But if I'm wrong and you are new, thank you so much for being here. But I think your name looks familiar. We have the Braves, who are still in first place for now, had a chance to gain a game tonight. Hey there, Chandra. Glad to have you here, because the Phillies lost earlier today, but the Braves went out and lost in 10 innings to split a 4-game series with the Mets. So the Mets actually right now lead the season series with the Braves 4-3. As bad as the Mets are, they're actually having success against the Braves this year. So the Braves still 3 games up. Now Martin Perez goes on the injured list. So for now, your rotation is Chris Sale, Grant Holmes, Reynaldo Lopez, Hurston Waldrop, and Bryce Elder. They called up Owen Murphy to be an emergency starter, but he came out of the bullpen tonight in the extra inning game. But they skipped Bryce Elder's last start because his velocity was down. He's going to get one more go at it on Thursday. If his velocity is still down, then he'll go on the injured list. If his velocity is back to normal, but he still gives up 4 or 5 runs, he'll probably go back down to Gwinnett. But now with Perez on the injured list and Strider still on the injured list and Spencer Schwellenbach nowhere near returning, I'm afraid if they either put Elder on the injured list or send him down, they're going to try to rush back A.J. Smith-Shawver. I don't think he's ready, but I think they've decided that Dylan Dodd is going to stay in the bullpen. And I think they've decided that Fuentes is going to stay in the bullpen. So if you lose Elder, somebody has to start. I would rather it not be J.R. Ritchie. I don't think he's ready. But if the other option is AJ Smith-Shawver, maybe you go with J.R. Ritchie. But I just feel like if Smith-Shawver's just now healthy and you rush him, you're just going to get him hurt all over again. But Austin Riley's batting average is down to just above 205. He's gone from a guy that can hit 270 to a guy that struggles to hit 210 in about 2 years, and he's still just 29 years old, so he's fallen off a cliff big time. But, you know, his batting stance has changed. Everything's changed. But he just can no longer hit. Anything that's off speed, down and away, he swings at it every time. Hey there, Jonathan. Glad to have you here, and thank you for the kind words, Jonathan. I really appreciate it. And Gabriella and Chandra and Jonathan, if any of y'all are new, so glad you are here. Feel free to give the video a like, a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, tell your family about the channel. Make sure you click that bell so you get notified whenever we go live, and tell your friends, tell your family about the channel. I greatly appreciate all of you being here in the live chat. And then this past Saturday, July 4th, I was at Scrappy Championship Wrestling at Bobby Brown Park, and we had, I would estimate, 450 fans there, so an amazing night. If you were there or know someone that was there, thank you so much for coming out and supporting a great promotion and a fantastic show. Don't worry, Jonathan, I'm going to keep going. I have no intentions of ever stopping, but thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate all the kind words I get here on the channel. So July 4th had an amazing turnout for Scrappy Championship. Be back there next month. But thank you for subscribing, Jonathan. I appreciate that. This Saturday, I'll be at 244 Livestock Road in East Denali, Georgia for SWA's Resurrection. Now, so far on the docket, this is the matches they are advertising. SWA has loads of great talent, and there's always 2 or 3 matches end up happening that are not advertised, especially at a big show. And I'm sure that'll happen again this week. But we have Tower versus Jackson Carter in a dog collar match. And then we have a 6-pack challenge where the winner will become the #1 contender for Brent Hudson's SWA Premier Championship. They've announced that Big John will be in that match, and they've announced that Trent from the Best Friends Club will be in that match. Outside of that, the other guys in it, we're not sure about. Find out on Saturday. Then we have Josh Aronson versus Seth Stevens for the New Blood Championship. That match will have no time limit because last show they wrestled and it was a draw because the time expired. So this match might go 30 minutes on Saturday. Then we have Cade Powers versus Cody McCulley in a Texas death match. So I'm sure you'll see everything, including the kitchen sink, in that match. And then you have Jimmy Lee and a mystery partner versus Forewarned for the SWA Tag Team Championships. And then the winner of the 6-pack challenge will then face Brent Hudson for the SWA Premier Championship. So the winner of the 6-pack challenge will have to wrestle twice on Saturday night. And already announced. Plus, Billy Starr will be there. Roland will be there. Drox will be in the house. Michael Thorson will be in the house. And I'm sure there's some that I don't even know that are going to be there. Will be there. So all that and more is coming up Saturday night. 244 Livestock Road, East Denali, Georgia for SWA Resurrection. Now, on to the main topic. And I thought about this because not this past weekend, but the weekend before last, we had 4 wrestling pay-per-views. And believe it or not, when I say how much is too much, and how little is too little. You would think that I was talking about having 4 in one weekend because we did, and to some you would say that's too much. But I'm actually not talking about that. I'm actually talking about the time. And I tell you, the reason why I ask that is because WWE here lately, outside of the big 4 pay-per-views, which is Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, most of theirs have 4 matches, maybe 5. But they had 6 last weekend because ESPN said they didn't feel like 5 was enough. So they added 1. But AEW, when they have theirs, they have like 10. But back in the day when you had WCW and WWE, all their pay-per-views would even be advertised as 3 hours. They would start at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and the replay came on at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So as soon as the live one went off, the replay came on. So if you wanted to see it again, you could. If you missed some of it and want to go back and watch it, you could. Because once you bought it, you pretty much got to watch it twice for the same price. And they would even advertise a 3-hour pay-per-view. And when you first started watching it and you bought it, when it came on your TV, it would say 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock Eastern. Well, now a lot of WWE's pay-per-views are maybe 2.5 hours, and AEW's are like 6 hours. But people complain that 2.5 hours is not enough, but they say that 5.5, 6 hours is too much. So my question is, where do you want it? What do you consider too little or too much? Was 3 hours the perfect amount? Or would you be okay with 4 hours, but 5.5 or 6 is too much? Because to me, if I'm paying for it and you're paying, whether you're paying $45 or $60, you're paying a flat rate fee. So if I'm paying a flat rate fee, to me, the longer it goes, the more I feel like I got my money's worth. Because if I pay $50 and it's 2 hours, then I'm like, dang, I just pretty much spent $25 an hour for TV. But if you pay $50 and it lasts 6 hours, then you pretty much paid about $8.50 per hour for TV. So to me, I don't see the downside and the downfall of it being 5.5, 6 hours, because you paid for it. Now, if you're charging by the hour, then I totally understand, hey, that's too much. But you're not paying by the hour, you're paying a flat rate fee for the pay-per-view. So why does it matter if it goes 5.5, 6 hours? If you're not a big enough wrestling fan to be interested because that's too long, then you're not really a wrestling fan, because when you like something, you don't get bored with it. If you get bored with it, you're not really the kind of fan you say you are. So how much is too much and how little is too little? When you watch it, when do you get to the point where you say, this is too much wrestling? And where do you say, man, it's already over with, that's not enough? How little is too little and how much is too much? I'm curious to know your response. And then lastly, briefly, not really a big deal, I've mentioned it before, but I thought about it again over the weekend. What can college football do? What would be their best solution for the scheduling? And I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I saw again somebody was complaining, saying that out of the LSU and Clemson game this year, maybe one or two other small games, that week 1 this year in college football is just absolutely dreadful, and it's bad for the sport to make everybody wait 7.5 months to watch football. And then the first weekend, there's only a couple games that are even worth turning your TV on for. And I'm not saying they're wrong, because there's not a lot of good games in week 1. But either last year or 2 years ago, you had like 20 good games in week 1. Like every game in week 1 was great. But then in week 2, you only had like 2 good games. So what can college football do? Because now almost everybody plays 9 conference games, so most people are in conference play by week 3, if not week 4. So you can't spread it out more to where you've got a bunch of teams playing conference games in week 1, because then what happens is the calendar turns to October and you've got half the teams in conference play and half the teams, playing some, non-conference game against some lower tier FBS school or an FCS school, because then obviously nobody's going to attend that game or watch that game, because why are you going to watch, let's just take for example Tennessee, say it's first Saturday in October and Tennessee is playing Tennessee State. Why are you going to watch that game when you can turn it on another channel and see Georgia playing Ole Miss? You're not going to do that. So by week 3 and week 4, everybody has to be in conference play. Now that almost everybody plays 9 conference games, you only have a couple of non-conference games to start the season. And for some teams, you're in conference play by week 3, because some teams play their rival in the last week, and their rival is a non-conference game. So you only have 3 non-conference games, and if one is at the end of the season, you can only have 2 at the beginning of the season. Now, for the teams that play their rival and their rival is a conference game, then you can open the season with 3 non-conference games before you start your 9-game conference schedule. But still, week 3, week 4, everybody's in conference play. So what can college football do to make the first couple of weeks better? I honestly don't know, because if you don't put any good games in week 1 like this year when there's not a whole lot, well, then you sit back and you get excited for 7 months, and then you see the week 1 schedule and you say, oh man, there's nothing to watch. But then if you put all the good games in week 1, then in week 2, it's kind of a dud. And you've got everybody, coming off a college football high in week 1. Then they see the week 2 schedule and they're like, that sucks. But you don't want to have a bunch of teams playing some FCS teams in October when, their conference foes are playing conference games, because then the teams that are playing non-conference games, won't get watched, because you're not going to watch somebody in an automatic win when you can turn the channel and see a good conference game, going on. So honestly, I don't know what the solution is, but I will tell you that it is a dud, an absolute dud, when you get all excited about, college football starting, and then week 1, there's 3 or 4 good games. Maybe you could, take a couple of the week 2 games and put them in week 1, and have 5 or 6 good games in week 1 and 5 or 6 good games in week 2. But outside of that, I don't know what you do. But see, it used to didn't be a big deal, because it used to be you only had 1 game on TV, so you didn't care if every other game sucked because you couldn't see it. And then it got to where you had a game on ABC and ESPN and ESPN2, and that was it. So you had 3 games on. So outside of those 3 games, nothing else mattered, as long as one of the 3 games that you could watch were good. But now, when you've got a game on NBC, and you've got a game on Peacock, and you've got a game on ESPN, and ESPNU, and ESPN2, and Fox Sports 1, and the Regional Sports Network, and the SEC Network, and the ACC Network, and the Big Ten Network, and TNT is going to carry some games this year. And then you turn the channel and there's 10 games on, and out of those 10 games, 9 of the games aren't worth watching. It's kind of frustrating. Man, I got all this football on and none of these games are worth turning my TV on for. That's kind of frustrating, but I don't know a solution. So if you've got one, I'd love to hear it. So any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What has a neck but no head? A bottle. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon. and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the tree.